I'm Becky Fawcett, mom by adoption, an infertile blonde, a female founder, an entrepreneur, and a million other things. Podcast rulebooks say that you have to have the same introduction for every single episode that you do. Don't be surprised. I'm not doing that. I like to have a bunch of different guests on this podcast. Today's guest is, you're going to love her. You're just going to love her. What a good story. And as you know, all roads lead to helpusadopt.org. So there's a good twist here. And that's my life. All roads led to Help Us Adopt. I tried to be perfect forever. I thought that's what I was supposed to do. And then when I tried to have children, being perfect didn't really work. That's my plot twist. And now I look for any opportunity to be different, and I embrace it. I'm an outspoken advocate who wants to change the world. And sometimes being outspoken gets me into trouble. But I only stand up for what I believe in. And for the most part, I meet great people like today's guest. So welcome to my podcast, The Fawcett Report. I'm so glad you're all here. Today is someone I've known for well before COVID. I guess this is how we're marking all of our lives now, is it's before COVID. Probably 12 plus years ago, I met you, Jenny. You were a kid.
I think I was about 15, 16 when I met you.
Yeah. So this is my friend, Jenny Mollet. And she is, to call her an artist, wait till you hear her bio. Like, it's insane. She's so many things besides being an incredible woman and a fitness instructor. She's on Broadway. She's off Broadway. She, ready for this, is originally from Switzerland, of all lovely places, and is based in New York City now. She's performed on so many stages, in so many workshops, on TV, music videos, Broadway, you name it. She was in Six, the musical. As a kid, she was in The Color Purple, which is so cute. You were 9. We're going to get to that. Right now, you can see her at Lincoln Center in Ragtime, which is just such an old-time good show from long ago. It's one of the oldies but goodies, right?
Yeah.
It's still relevant. She's been off Broadway in Cats, the Jellicle Ball. She's been on the national tour, 50th anniversary tour of Jesus Christ Superstar. If you were watching the Thanksgiving Day parade this year, like I was, you got to see your friend Jenny right in front of Macy's. And I was so proud of you as a friend. Thought it was great. This is a good one. If you know anything about performing arts schools, this one's a toughie to get into. She went to the University of Cincinnati Conservatory of Music. That's a hard thing to get into. This kid is amazing. You're not even a kid anymore. Anyway, musical theater major, minor in psychology. What can't you do? Jenny, welcome to my podcast. I think you can do everything.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. That's what I like to think. But hey, I try to be as versatile as possible.
That's a pretty good resume there. And The Color Purple when you were 9 years old. What was that like? Because listen, I've been going to Broadway. I grew up in Philadelphia, so we didn't go all the time, but it was 2 hours away. And we also had some theaters in Philadelphia. And I remember at a young age, like seeing Annie, which I think every young girl wants to see Annie. And I remember thinking, oh my God, I want to sing. I want to be up there on that stage. Of course, I can't sing. Wish I could. Can't dance. Wish I could. But you did it. You probably watched some show when you were little and just said, I need to be up there. How did it all happen?
I'm very grateful to say that everything happened unexpectedly, but also seamlessly. So how I got Color Purple was I started off as a dancer. I come from a dance background. And at that time, I was with a professional youth hip hop company. And we did appearances for artists, and we did a Macy's Back to School tour and all that stuff. Anyways, at the venue that we were rehearsing at, there was a voice teacher right across the hallway. And it was also the era of like High School Musical and Camp Rock. Us youngins eventually had to at least hold a tune or learn how to. So I started taking voice lessons. And then shortly after, she told me that there were auditions for The Color Purple, because also one of her students as well was currently in there. So she's one of my best friends to this day. And she was like, just go for it. I know it's like one of your very first, if not the first professional audition, but just go in and have fun. And so we prepped for that. And then, yeah, I went in, auditioned. I just took it as like a good old time. And my mom at the time was like, we're not too sure about all this, but okay. And yeah, we did the whole process. We did the callbacks and all that. And then literally a few days after, I found out my mom got the call from my manager actually that they want to send me an offer. And then literally a couple days after I got the call, I started rehearsals. And yeah, I was part of it for a year. I came in the middle of the run. So I was mainly in it with Fantasia and Shaka Khan and BB Winans, which was stellar. I mean, the
I
entire
mean,
company was,
I'm a girl of the 80s, so Shaka Khan, legendary. Come on.
yeah,
Like legendary. That's so
yeah.
cool. I did not know that fact.
Yeah, the entire company. I was truly grateful to be a part of a show with people who are just artists and to soak up all of that was really inspiring. I did it for a year. I was part of the, I guess you can say, the closing company. We wrapped in February 2008. It's still one of my core memories to this day. And then I'm very grateful that I'm still in contact with many of these people. A lot of the adults that I was with, they've become my mentors in a sense. And I'm very grateful for that time and that show.
And then you had a bit of a lag time, but you were growing up. So, like, you're probably doing other things. And then your return to Broadway, you picked a real show to come back to. That's an impressive show, 6. This is amazing. It's great.
Yeah, no,
How'd that go? What was in between the years?
I did work every now and then after Color Purple. I was mainly, I guess you can say, training and taking classes. I was also in middle school and high school, and I went to performing arts schools during that time. For middle school, I was at PPAS, Professional Performing Arts School, and then for high school, I was at LaGuardia.
Listen, I have to interrupt. For those of you listening who do not know what LaGuardia is, I'm in New York City with Jenny now. It is the school that the movie Fame was based on. And it's legendary. It really does churn out stars. Like it really is incredible. But a lot of us grew up watching the movie and then the TV show thinking this was a made up place. And it was not a made up. It still exists today. It's
Yeah.
not a made up place.
Still standing strong, which is amazing. Yeah, so I was there and I did a lot of youth theater, I guess you can say, but it was professional. So a lot of young actors were there, professional young actors were there as well. And I did a lot of, I love collaboration and immersive work. So I was doing a lot of upcoming projects where we call them workshops or readings. And so I was doing a lot of those during that time. And then obviously I went off to college. After I graduated high school, I went to the University of Cincinnati, College Conservatory of Music, or CCM for short. And yeah, I did my 4 years there. And shortly after the pandemic, I was on tour. And then, yeah, shortly afterwards as well, after the tour ended, I joined the company of 6. And that was like my return to Broadway. And it's crazy to think 20 years later, that's my return to Broadway there and to be part of such a iconic show and a show about women empowerment and just being yourself. And yeah, I have to say, like, I've been very grateful with the opportunities that have graced my presence. And yeah, so that was a really fun time. I was there for a year and a half, so I did not anticipate being there for that long. Everything happens for a reason, and I've built such amazing connections and friendships. And yeah, it was stellar. Like, I'm still wrapping my brain around it to this day that I got to do that show and that I got to be a leading woman, even though I was an alternate. I covered 3 roles, but it's literally 6 people on stage. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
it. And yeah, so to be a leading woman in whatever capacity that I was going on for that day was really stellar.
And let's talk the people listening, they might hear you say you didn't know you'd be there for a year and a half. That was a long time. And they might be saying, that's not a long time. But explain to people how rigorous being on stage on Broadway in New York City is because it is not an easy schedule. And that's why people sometimes have shorter contracts with shows because of what you're about to tell everybody.
Yeah, it depends on the type of show that you're doing and the type of contract, the business aspect of it. On average, usually you get about 6 months to a year, depending on what is being spoken about. But literally, we're athletes. We have to train our minds, our bodies, our instruments, whatever we're doing, we're athletes. And I take that job literally and very seriously, especially being an alternate or a cover or swing. There's various terms for it, but because we have to go on sometimes at very short notice, and we have to be up and ready to go. And
And it's 6 days a week. Some days have two shows. The show is not
we
5 minutes long.
we
What
do
the
eight
show is,
yeah, we do 8 shows a week. I mean, six the musical is about 80 minutes, so it's relatively short compared to other shows that I've been, because most shows are about 2.5 hours. Ragtime, which is the show that I'm currently in right now, it's about 2.5, verging on 3 hours. But yeah, no, performers, we're athletes. We train for this, not just for dance classes, but like even though I'm a fitness instructor as well, like I'm in the gym almost every day trying to make sure, I'm rehabbing things or making sure that my alignment, doing Pilates and stuff is right and whatnot. So it's like literally, and voice lessons and X, Y, and Z. So it all adds up. But we're the same athletes as any athlete in sports.
I don't think
No.
people realize that. I wanted to have you on, and I'm thinking, you tell me when you're free because even though I have such a busy schedule and two teenagers, I'm like, you have a worse schedule than I do. So I'll make myself available when you're free. It's no joke.
Yeah,
And other
I mean,
people are depending on you. And then all these people have paid to come to see you. So it's a big deal.
yeah, 8 shows a week is not an easy job. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
very grateful. It has its highs and lows, of course, as with everything in life. Sometimes I may have to sacrifice something. I may not be able to go out as frequently or have dinners and stuff just because of timing and whatnot. That's the life I chose and asked for, and I'm very grateful for it.
And just like athletes get to show off their Olympic medal, you get to say, I was on Broadway and not just once. That's a big deal. It's a big deal. I'm so happy for you. So the reason that all roads lead to Help Us Adopt, because everybody's probably, what the heck? Okay, Broadway, Becky, we go somewhere with this. You are an
Also an
adoptee.
adoptee. Yeah.
And that is how we were introduced. You came to my Help Us Adopt gala in New York whenever ago, 12 years ago. And then I was so fascinated that you were a child performer because I love that. Kept in touch on social media and I've just
Yeah.
followed you. I mean, this has been a long time. But let's talk about being adopted. I feel like you are so good with your story and so sure of who you are. And maybe that wasn't always the case. I know, like, I talk about this with my kids all the time. Talk to me about being adopted. And when did you really embrace the fact that this is one of the things that makes you so great?
Yeah. So I was adopted as a newborn. I was actually born here in the States. I was born in Rockford, Illinois. And my family that adopted me, they're from Switzerland. And so they did the whole adoption process. And fast forward, they found out that I was on the way. They flew over from Switzerland to Chicago, and we did the whole adoption process. Everything was finalized, and then they actually took me back to Switzerland, and I lived there for about 3 years or so. And then we moved to the States. We actually moved to New York because my dad's job transferred when I was about 3.5 or so. I didn't spend too much time in Switzerland, but Switzerland is still home for me, especially now that my mom moved back a couple years ago and everyone is over there. But I've always known that I was adopted. My parents, they constantly told me, and when I was a kid, it was really cute. We would always do like bedtime stories and all that stuff before I would go to sleep. And a lot of the books that we had were about adoption. And so some of the books that we read, they'll be like, that kid is just like you, similar background, all that stuff. It was a good thing for me to soak into, and especially as I got older. And my parents are white. I'm the only, as I call it, the only chocolate drop in the family. And we're also diverse in a lot of different ways. For the most part, in the immediate family, I'm the only chocolate drop. And growing up in New York, I had a lot of support as well, especially within the Black community. So my mom, with dance and stuff, we had thankfully, a lot of amazing Black women who helped her out with my hair. My mom learned how to box braid, and she also figured out how to take care of my hair for dance competitions, because back then you had to do the slick back look with the bun and stuff, or a ponytail. So we had a lot of influential Black people who stepped in as well to nurture me, but also nurture my parents and take them under the wing. And as I've gotten older as well, especially during the middle school and high school years, my parents also made sure to instill Black history and Black community and stuff, especially living in Harlem for many of those years as well. So they were like, as you get older, we want to make sure that you take it upon yourself also to know about your history and your culture. And we're a very adventurous family as well. So
I love this
yeah, we
so
love to go to
much.
museums and stuff. So we did a lot of stuff together as well to make sure that I hold on to my history and my background.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. Your mom sounds like a very smart woman,
Yeah.
really good mom, and just very aware of what adoption is and how it can be the best for everybody if certain things are honored. Tell me about like when you were a kid and your mom told you like you're going to this gala for this organization that builds families through adoption and you walked into that room where we had 200 people, Faces of Adoption New York, who were all there because they thought adoption is something worth cheering about. What did you think as a kid who was adopted? What crossed your mind when
It was
you
special. It was very special. And I was very honored to have been invited to that event because even though I do know quite a few people who have been adopted or have been through the process of adoption, to be in a big room like that, whether it be people who are adoptees or trying to build their families and stuff, it was special. And I think we were all connected for that one reason. And also to just experience that relatively young. It's moments like that I didn't really get to experience growing up that much as well. To have one hubbub, one hotspot where everyone just comes together for this one sole reason was really beautiful. And that was like the whole thing going through my brain the entire time and making these connections and talking to people about their backgrounds and what the sole reason that we're all here together for that one night was.
thank you for saying all that. I feel that way. I think our events are so important for the community aspect of it because this adoption is not a community. Even today, people don't talk about this all the time. And I talk to people all the time who are like, God, I feel so alone. And I'm like, if the timing works out, come to our gala in New York. And I promise you, they're like, what do I do? I go, just come.
Yeah.
You're not going to feel alone by the time you leave. Like
Yeah.
everybody in that room is there to celebrate however their piece affects them or to learn about another piece that maybe doesn't pertain to them that they want to know more about. But it's all good. It's all about this is how family, this is one way families are built. And we need to talk about it more and
Yeah.
be out there more. And I love that. Thank you. And I'm so glad that you're still in my life all these years later. So, talk about if you're a performer and you're on Broadway, you are coming into a role, and especially what you just said about six, that you were covering three different roles. How do you, I don't know, does being adopted, like, I feel like you found your sense of self earlier because you were adopted. Does that help you play these other roles? Am I coming up with something that is crazy, or does it
No.
pertain to anything later?
So we have a saying, there's different methods with acting. And one of the methods, or I guess the taglines you can say, is living truthfully under imaginary circumstances. That's one of the taglines for one of the main methods. So I, of course, implement as much as myself into these roles that I get to take on. And I get to use bits and pieces of my life into these roles to accurately depict these scenarios and these scenes and these moments. There have been moments where I got to use some of my adoption story into whatever role, maybe not directly, but I guess the feelings the character has to go through at that moment in time. Whether it be questioning self-identity or loss or any kind of like those themes, I get to take a look into my own life and it feels like therapy in a way. Like you reflect on it, think about it, and see how these moments in your own life can be implemented into these roles. Not for everything I've used adoption for, but like even similar feelings, or for instance, a lot of the times, especially during my middle school, high school years, since you mentioned about me coming into myself so soon, to be honest, I started coming into myself like during my adult years, like during college, because I think I was so wrapped up in what people thought of me in a sense. And also, I hate to say it, sometimes I felt like I didn't belong in certain communities. So sometimes I felt like I didn't belong in the Black community. And sometimes I felt like, even though I'm not Black, I was raised with a white family. I just didn't know where I lived, and then sometimes I got the label Oreo because I was black on the outside, white on the inside. Those things hurt when people toss those names out, and yes, it may be true, but that's a part of me, and that's a part of my story, and now that I've gotten older, I've accepted those attributes of me, and yeah, that's what makes me who I am today. I've never been ashamed of adoption, but, like, it took me a while to step into who I am with all this.
I love that answer. And the reason I asked you that is because on my side of this adoption world, for those of you listening, I'm a mom by adoption twice. My infertility road was shameful. No one wanted to talk about it. And I had miscarriages, which are also shameful and no one wants to talk about. And I was just not feeling anything really. It was horrible. And then I became a mom by adoption with Jane. And I was like, oh, I'm going to use that shameful piece of me that no one wanted to talk about. And I'm going to build something that helps people behind me. And so I've built my whole career. And that's why I say in my intro, I'm an infertile blonde. Like my whole new career and Help Us Adopt and my mission in life has now been built on this piece of who I am, which is really where I came into my own. And I think it's so interesting. I always love asking that question to people because sometimes people think you were fine before. No, I wasn't. I was trying to be perfect. There was nothing fine about that before. I was just doing the dance that I thought you guys all wanted to see. And now I am so authentic, it freaks people out because they don't want to talk about why I'm but I love it, and this is it. I think sometimes I always tell my kids, "What makes you different makes you great." And
Yeah.
if you can embrace that difference every day and not really care people can't use against you what you tell them is there. What are you gonna do? Call me infertile? I had someone call me barren once in an argument. I'm like, "Wow, you came up with a new word that is the same as infertile," and I already knew that. Like,
Yeah.
but to someone else, that might be soul crushing.
And also it's built community, and, like, now I have people very similar to my story. Like, I think within the last 5 years, I think I have a handful of people who were transracially adopted,
Yeah.
that I got to meet. So it's
Let's talk
great.
about that. You just
Mhm.
did right before in the fall, you did an interview with one of your, I want to say coworker, but it's not your coworker, someone else in this performance with you
Oh, yeah,
who
one
is
of my
also,
castmates, yeah.
yeah, your castmate. See, that's the, sorry,
Coworker works too.
coworker, castmate, same thing. But you did, I love that. Talk about that. Like you found someone else who has,
Yeah, so that was actually a surprising story. So I've known Tanika, her name is Tanika. I've known her for a couple of years now because we just, with the theater world, and we've done some other like mini concerts and stuff together, mutual friends. So I never knew that she was also transracially adopted. We had our opening night events for the show back in October, and I saw a snippet that she posted. She was getting interviewed, and they were talking about how adoption plays a role in the show and ragtime and the common themes. And she brings up that she's also adopted. And I was like, wait, what? Like, how did I not know about this? I remembered that November is Adoption Awareness Month. And I quickly hit Tanika up and I said, hey, should we try like to do something? Like, I don't know if we could do something in relation to the show or something on our own part. We'll figure something out. And she was totally on board. And then we connected with some of the creatives or like the social media team on the show, and they were game for it. And then we decided to do like a little real snippet of our adoption story. So I'm really happy that was able to be shared amongst the show and the Lincoln Center Theater's platform as well.
when I talk to people who, I guess for the most part, I'll talk to people who are about to go down the road as adoptive parents, okay? And they're like, "We don't know anybody. We have no idea. We don't know a single soul." I go, "You do, actually, but you don't know it yet." I go, "Start saying the word out loud." I'm not kidding. I said, "Start saying, 'Hi, I'm Becky Fawcett. I'm probably gonna adopt a child.'" And I go, "Just use that sentence everywhere you go for a week and get back to me." Because it is everywhere, and
It is.
I want like, part of what we do at Help Us Adopt is say, "Talk about it and talk about it a lot," because it is something that just has been shelved, and it shouldn't be because the connection it's so great to be seen and to have a friend. Like, my daughter's best friend is adopted. We were just with them, and she's a transracial adoptee, and I love it. Like, they're best friends. They became best friends before they found out they were both adopted, and then The mom and I were sitting on one side of the table yesterday, and Katie and Brooke were on the other side, and it was like she was like, "I'm so glad they're best friends." I'm like, "But more than that, I'm glad of what they have in common." Like, I'm glad they can say "me too" on this one thing because it's something that's pushed to the back, and it shouldn't be pushed to the back because it is part of who you are. It doesn't go away, and I tell people this. I'm like, "My kids will always be adopted, so we should make it great because it is. I will always be a mom by adoption, and we should make it great because it is." And I love this. And on the flip side, my girls say, when I ask them this question, we'll see what you say, that the only hard part, I'm like, I do check ins with them, okay, because I've been very open with them their whole lives. I don't profess to be perfect. I think I have a pretty good gut where it's considered, but I always go with them on this that I could be wrong. I may have not done it perfectly. So occasionally I'll check in and be like, how are we doing on the adoption thing? Like when they're teenagers, right? And I'm like, have you talked to your birth family enough? Have we done this? How are you feeling? And I remember last year, Jane, who's now 20, was like, Mom, enough. Here's the deal. I'm good. The only time I'm not good is the way the world reacts to the word. There's still a stigma. Being adopted is easy. I am who I am. I'm totally confident in who I am. I'm great until someone gets that look on their face when I say I'm adopted, or they say, "What?" Or they say, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And how do you feel about that? Like maybe you don't see it, maybe you're lucky, you never hear it, but the world, I get annoyed because I'm like, you shouldn't talk about something you don't understand. The world still has a stigma. I'm trying to break that too.
Which is, and knowing you for all this time, like, it's a beautiful thing. I appreciate you for that because, like you said, there is no shame in being adopted. But yeah, I don't think I've seen it as frequently, but when I was younger, I felt if I brought up the word adoption, for the most part, it was like full on support, beautiful thing, amazing. But there were a handful of people being like, "Oh my gosh," like the violins start playing. But also, as I got older, with certain communities as well, it's like they can't accept that I was adopted as well for whatever reason that may be. Like, for instance, when it comes to dating, apparently some people just won't accept the fact that I am transracially adopted. And I'm not trying to defend myself or, explain myself, but I'm saying, like, I'm still a Black woman. I still have my roots. My parents instilled those roots to me, even though they're white. But there are these factors that all come into play. But I haven't really experienced it the last couple of years. Again, I've really owned that I'm adopted and claim it with all my power. And because I think because I've been claiming it more and more people have been springing up in my life and I'm getting
Yeah.
to build all these connections. Yeah, I want to say when I was a little bit younger, it was a little bit more in your face with what we're talking about. But yeah, the last couple of years or so, I keep tossing the word around, but it's a beautiful thing.
So look, I in my regular life, I am a mom by adoption twice, and then help us adopt is my professional life. So it's pretty much all I talk about all the time. That's a little different. But what I will say is this. So sometimes I talk to people and they're like, I really don't like adoption.
Mm.
And I'm like, tell me why. And they tell me, like, woman who's pregnant has an unplanned pregnancy and feels that there's no other way but to place her child. I go, look, in a perfect world, life would be perfect, but this is not that world. And I'm not asking you to adopt, but in our situation, I have two open adoptions. Birth fathers picked us to be their parents. Like, we've made it a pretty cool thing. And they're like, I'm just not so okay with not knowing the story. And I said, look, you don't have to adopt, but I'm going to ask you something right here and right now. Your kid absolutely has a friend who's adopted. There's no way that they don't in today's day and age. There's no way. And I'm going to ask you this. Someday, someone's going to fall in love with my girls. And won't it be a shame if someone like you says can't happen because they're adopted? And that woman looked at me and I was like, defend your position. What are you going to do? Tell your son that my girls are no good because they didn't come out of my body? I said, You can't pick and choose these things in life. And you don't have to adopt. But to even say all your reasons why you wouldn't, your kid might come home with someone who's adopted and you're going to not look so good if that's the reason you don't like that girl.
Oh yeah.
So
No,
it
I
was
can
pretty
relate.
funny. I
I
mean,
can go on and on. I mean, since we talked about me minoring in psychology, like I had to do a whole essay, like final project on it. It was like 20 pages long. And so this is why I can like don't debate me on adoption
right.
because I could school you for days. But I specifically focused on like transracial adoptions and stuff and how that played into society and whatnot. And yeah, it was really interesting to do a deep dive on it because it was just wild. So no one talked to me about that.
I mean, and also when people say that, I point out the obvious that perhaps you haven't thought about. All these negative things you're saying about adoption, I don't know how you can be my friend because this is my
Yeah,
life and those are my kids. So thank you for showing me who you are.
exactly.
Brooke said to me, she goes, "Do people not understand? This is my life they're talking about.
Yeah.
This is my life." When people say negative things about adoption, she goes, "I'm a 16-year-old kid.
Mhm.
This is my life you're telling me is no good. You're telling me the way I came into this world is no good. The way I'm with you is no good, mom." And now the fact that I wear adoption like across my forehead pretty much because she's so proud of the fact.
Yeah.
And Katie is adopted. And the funniest thing about Katie, talk about transracial adoption. 2 summers ago, I was out with the girls late. And don't even ask, I was in Times Square with them late. It's crazy. And something weird happened. And I whipped around to the man and said, "These are my girls. You clear out." And
Mhm.
Katie looked at me and she goes, "You just called me your daughter?" I go, "You could be." With adoption, anything's possible. I look a little like your mom. And we just, the three of us laughed because that guy didn't know what to say. And those are my girls. I tell her, I'm like, when you're with me, I treat you as my child. I protect you as my child. And I expect your parents to do the same when Brooke's with you. That's how it works. But we had a good laugh about it because that guy was probably like, "Lady, that girl's not your daughter." And she could be.
In this day and age,
Anything's
and
possible. So
yeah,
it was just very cute. And Katie was like, "I love that your mom just calls me her girl," because that's it. And I think maybe, I don't know, it's just instinctual to me now because adoption's been part of my life for 20 years.
I just always think about when people show their true colors. I'm like, so we would have remained friends or acquaintances or however you
Yep.
want to maintain our connection had you not found out that I was adopted. And now the fact that it leaves a quote unquote bitter taste in your mouth.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And
Clearly
here's
I
the
don't need
thing.
you.
Here's the thing. I always say this too, because people are like, "Becky, you have unreasonable expectations here." That people love to tell me that. And always say this: everybody is allowed to apologize
Mhm.
after I let them know that what they have said about adoption is offensive to me because it's my family. All you have to say is, "Oh my God, I'm mortified. I shouldn't have misspoke. Tell me how I'm wrong. Educate me. I'm so sorry." That's all you have to do. And we would move on. But when people hold their ground that something's wrong with adoption and adoptees or adoptive mothers, I don't like it because
Yeah,
it's not necessarily true. Every adoption is different. There's no, this is the story that just goes from family to family. It's all different, it's unique.
it's unique, truly.
So, anyway, we'll keep standing up for each other
Exactly.
and righting the wrongs. But that's it. I think if people would just learn more about what adoption is, because it wasn't talked about for generations and it was secretive and shameful. And that was a mistake. We all know that. It was a
Yeah,
mistake. People deserve better. These are human beings. And
exactly.
so I love that you own it. So now that we've talked about all these scenarios of what people say about adoption, is there a story in your childhood that you remember where maybe someone said something insensitive about you and your mom because they just assumed that perhaps you weren't you and your mom?
So it actually didn't turn out to be insensitive. It first seemed like it, but then it ended up being a cute little story. So I believe I don't exactly remember. I was a baby at this point, but we were somewhere in Asia because we traveled a lot for my dad's job. And back in the 90s, we were able to join along for these business trips. And my brother desperately wanted to get food. So we went into this mall and we got food and there were these older gentlemen, like maybe sitting on a bench not too far from us when we were coming out, and they spotted my mom and me. And I was in the baby stroller. They started sizing us up and eyeing us left and right. So my mom, of course, got like creepy vibes. And so we just continued our own way though. And then I think, if I'm not mistaken, they somehow catch us again, or we're heading towards the exit, something, but they come up to us, and then, of course, my mom squares up, And all of a sudden, moments later, I'm skipping some bits and pieces. Moments later, they start playing with me. They're like, "Oh my God, she's so cute," blah, 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 blah. But my mom thought, like, at first that they were judging her because I was a Black child with a white woman. And I thankfully haven't had too many moments. And I mean, the only other moment that I can think of was this was when I was freshly moved to New York. We were living in the Bronx at the time, and I was on the monkey bars. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, this was the first time I've seen a Black kid. So I climb up and I say hi to him, and I should have known better, but I touched his face and I was like, "Oh my gosh, you look like me." And he gave me the nastiest face ever. He was like, "Who the heck are you? Like, you're
Oh
Black
my
from the
gosh.
Bronx?" But I was like 3 or 4 at the time, so I didn't know any better. But obviously, Switzerland is a predominantly white country. I mean, it's getting more diverse as time goes on. But yeah, if I'm not mistaken, that was like my first encounter with
That's so interesting.
Black person. But he was so taken back that I touched his face and I was like, "Oh my gosh, you look like me."
Was that comforting? How did that feel to see someone who looked like you finally?
It
That's
was
amazing.
it was comforting. It was
Yeah.
exciting. I was like, "Oh my gosh, there's people like me here." But yeah, of course, and like I said, I was a munchkin at the time, so I didn't know any better. I think also after that, my parents had to sit down with me a little bit more on
Don't touch people's faces.
that. Very
Yeah.
much, but also that, especially now that we're out of Switzerland and we're in more of a diverse area, like, you're gonna be seeing more walks of life, different people, different races, different backgrounds, different abilities and disabilities and stuff.
I love New York for that reason. Can't get enough of it. I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. All right, we have time for one last question. If anybody's listening who is an adoptee in a transracial family and wants to reach out to you, if anyone's an adoptee and wants to reach out to you in general, if anyone's an adoptee who wants to be a performer, what do you want to tell that group of kids or women who might be listening to this who know someone who should talk to you? What advice would you give them all in this world we live in right now?
I think in this world we live in, and I think just in general, just stay true to you. I always close it out in all my like classes that I teach. Just take ownership and gratitude in who you are. And no one has your light. No one has your essence, your je ne sais quoi, your special sauce, however you want to phrase it. And always lead with love, compassion, kindness, and grace, especially during these crazy times in the world. But no one can do the things that you can do. So just take full ownership of that.
I love that. Be who you are. That's what I tell my girls every day when they leave. I'm like, be who you are and be kind. The rest will all fall into place. You know?
Exactly.
Please tell all of our listeners where they can find you on social media if they want to follow you. They can, of course, buy tickets to Ragtime if this is happening during. Check your local listings for that one.
Currently in Ragtime, we're running until June 14th, so I'll be there. I'm a swing. You can message me if whenever I'm on. I also have a broadcast channel on my Instagram, and my Instagram is jenny.mollet, or you can just look up my name, Jenny, last name Mollet. Yeah, feel free to join my broadcast channel, and I post other things in there, whether concerts or any other shenanigans I get into. But yeah, feel free to also message me. I'm very open about all aspects of my life. And I think we all can help each other out, especially during these trying times. So lend each other a hand.
Jenny, I really think you're an inspiration. And I don't even think you've scratched the surface on what you're going to do in this world. So I can't wait for a front row seat to watch. Congratulations on all of it. Not every kid, actor, performer gets to follow their dream into adulthood. It doesn't always happen that way. So I'm thrilled for you. And thank you for being here today. 30 Seconds with Becky Fawcett. So I hope you loved the conversation with Jenny. I mean, I find people who can perform in general so interesting. They are traits and skills that I wish I had. One of the things I loved about Jenny and talking about being an adoptee and a transracial adoption is when she said, only you can be you. You're the secret sauce. And one of the things that it took me a while to embrace as well, thinking I had to be perfect this whole life, is when I did have that snafu of not being able to have a child and being labeled infertile and then being labeled the girl who had miscarriages. At first, I was so ashamed by those disclaimers and I didn't want to wear them. I didn't want to be associated with them. I didn't want people to talk about it. And then I got a little further through all that and realized that was what made me different. And that was what put me on a different road. to a different place. And that was what made me great, because only you can be you. And that's it. What great words to live by. Embrace your differences. Own it. For Jenny, it's a platform that she talks about now on a regular basis. For me, it's helpusadopt.org and things I advocate for that I think make the world a better place. And I'm raising my girls to be exactly who they are, and they're going to figure it out. I think they already have figured it out much earlier than I did. 30 Seconds with Becky Fawcett. Thank you for listening to the Fawcett Report. I'm so glad you were here. I hope the thing you took away from this conversation with me and Jenny is to just see the world a little differently, and maybe you're going to use your voice to make a difference. You can follow the Fawcett Report on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And just like Jenny, you can message me. You don't have to agree with me. But guess what? Can't be mean. I'm not responding to mean. I will respond to everything else, but nothing mean. And if you are curious about my adoption advocacy and family building work through helpusadopt.org, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, as well as through the website helpusadopt.org. And I'm going to see you next time. Thanks, everybody.